Good evening. My name is Thurman Greco, and the name of this program is Let's Live. It's an occasional show which I record on Friday evenings here in Woodstock, New York. And I am a reflexologist and a Reiki practitioner, and I've written some books, and I do talk about these books. The books I've written fall in two categories. One is health. I have one book called Healers Handbook, which is on its second edition now, and it has gone out to 18 different countries. And it's been a very, very interesting book. It's been an interesting book to write and an interesting book to live, because you know, once a writer writes a book, then they begin to live with the book, because it gets distributed in different ways, it gets shared, it gets sold, it gets whatever in different ways. And I have recently put this book on sale in honor of the coronavirus. If you get 2 copies of this book, you'll get it for $25, which is really, really nice. Because now that we are not out so much, we have a chance to read, and we have a chance to take care of ourselves, which is something that we haven't had a chance to do in the last few decades. I have also written a book called I Don't Hang Out in Churches Anymore, which is about hunger. And it chronicles my life in a food pantry here in Woodstock. And I have written 2 other books about hunger. The first one is called Volume 1 in the Unworthy Hungry series, and that's about miracles. And this is it's a small book. It's got about, 10, 12 pages, and it's about some miracles that happened in that food pantry when I was there. And there were a lot more that took place, but it took me a while to realize that they were happening. And I had to, once I realized and quit joking about it and actually accepted the fact that that's really what was happening, then I had to deal with this whole phenomenon of miracles. Because most people, truthfully, ask for miracles. When you think about miracles, you think about icons, you think about stigmata, you think about all different kinds of things. But these were not miracles that were prayed for. And these were not miracles that were sought. And they were just simply miracles that were a gift to the pantry. And they were not miracles for me. They were not miracles for the volunteers. They were miracles for the pantry, which was an amazing thing when you start delving into the conditions that create a miracle and why we need a miracle, and etc. And I have another volume that's coming out probably within the next couple of weeks, if not this week. And it's called No Fixed Address. And that's volume 2 in the Unworthy Hungry series. And that book is about homelessness. So I will be offering I Don't Hang Out in Churches Anymore, plus the two Unworthy Hungry books for $25 as well. And it was delightful. One of the first things that happened to me when I really realized that we really are having a pandemic, the first thing that I thought was, I'm going to offer these books to people. I'm going to make a gift of these books because they're very uplifting. All of them are uplifting. And then I started moving around in writer circles, and I found many, many other writers were offering free copies of books as well. It was a very, very interesting thing that happened. And I want to read for you, this is an important thing, that this is going to start off the program. I have a woman in Ireland who bought a copy of the book. I've sold Healers Handbook to people in 18 different countries so far. It has not been translated into any other countries, other languages. It is in English, and it's this lady in Ireland, Jackie Grimley, bought this book, and then she sent me a writing by a woman, an Irish poet by the name of Kitty O'Meara. And it was just the most beautiful thing, and I've been sharing it every chance I get. And this is what Kitty O'Meara has written. And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, and some danced. Some met their shadows, and some people began to think differently. And the people healed, and in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed, and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices, and dreamed new images, and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed. And that was Kitty O'Meara. And that's just the most beautiful thing, because I have really felt, and I do feel, that the current situation that we are experiencing is a gift. It is a gift. This is a timeout in which our planet Earth is experiencing a cleanse. And we are going into a hibernation. And this is one of the best things that can happen to our planet on the short run. This is very, very important. This is a timeout that the planet needed desperately. And so I'm going to honor that now by talking about our health and the spirituality of our bodies. Because we are not only a body, but we have many, many components to our body. And many of these components are microscopic. And so I want to start off by talking about what is the difference between going to a doctor and going to a healer. Because I'm finding as I go through life that many people don't know what it means to go to a healer. They don't know the difference between going to a doctor and going to a healer. They don't know that the outcomes are different. And they don't realize that there is a difference even. And so this is very, very important. And so there are 9 things that conventional healers do that healers do not do. And this does not make medicine and healing an either-or situation. You don't either go to a doctor or to a healer. You don't either go to a massage therapist or a nurse practitioner. You need both. And you need both because they do 2 different things. And when they work together, it's called integrative medicine. And integrative medicine is the best thing that can happen to you and your body. So the 9 words that tell the difference between one and the other, the first word is cure. Healers don't cure anything. Instead, they offer their services. In my case, as a reflexologist, I do not heal. I offer a session to the feet. A massage therapist does not heal. A massage therapist gives you a massage. And when we offer our services, we empower our clients to take control of their own health and to heal and embrace wellness, which is totally different from going to a physician. And the next word is a patient. As a reflexologist or as a massage therapist, as a whatever, because there are hundreds of different kinds of healers. We do not have patients. We have clients. I have client partners. But when I go to my nurse practitioner, or when I go see my doctor, when I go see my otolaryngologist, I am his patient. When I go see Dr. Courtbus, I'm a patient. But when I see my clients and I offer reflexology or Reiki, they are my clients. They are my client partners. But they're not patients. So when you go see your doctor, you're a patient. When you go see your reflexologist, you're a client partner. And when I go see Dr. Karpus, with my allergies, when I go see Dr. Karpus with my sinus infections, Dr. Karpus recommends things. He tells me that I'm going to recommend that you go see this person. I'm going to recommend that you go and get this test. I'm going to recommend this. Now, when somebody comes to me as a reflexologist, I don't recommend anything. I work their feet. So it's a totally different thing. And when I go to see Dr. Karpus, he advises things. He gives me advice. And when people come to see me as a reflexologist, I support my clients in their healing path. And the work that they receive brings about homeostasis and synchronicity. Dr. Karpus takes care of my sinus infections and my allergies. They're two different things. And when I go see Dr. Karpus, he examines my sinuses, and he examines my throat, and he examines my nose. I don't examine anyone. I just work their feet. A massage therapist doesn't examine anyone. A massage therapist just gives you a massage. And when Dr. Karpus, when I go and see Dr. Karpus, he examines my ears and my sinuses and things. And I just work hands and feet. So it's a totally different focus. And when I go see Dr. Karpus, he prescribes things. He prescribes, if I have a sinus infection and I need antibiotics, he prescribes the antibiotics. I do not prescribe anything. I don't know anything about medicines. I don't prescribe them. I only use them if the physician has told me to do so. And I don't go there. So if my client patient partners are taking medication, then it doesn't even enter into the picture at all. And when I go to see Dr. Karpus, he dispenses, in this case, allergy shots. And I don't dispense anything when my client partners come to me. They just receive foot reflexology sessions. And when client partners come to see me, they don't get a diagnosis. I don't tell them you have this, you have that, you have something. Dr. Karpus tells me, Thurman, you got a sinus infection. Thurman, you don't have a sinus infection. Your sinuses are much better today. Thurman, your allergies are much better. That's Dr. Karpus's job. And when I go see Dr. Karpus, he may administer things, but I don't administer anything as a massage therapist or as a reflexologist. I do not administer anything, but Dr. Karpus does. And now I am going to, and I will say this, when you go see a healer, for the most part, you are touched. The person is touching your body. The person is getting to know the physical part of your body, and the foot reflexologist is definitely touching your feet, definitely touching your hands. Whereas often I go to see a doctor and they don't touch anything. More and more your physicians are relying upon testing, which is good. That's how you get the diagnosis. That's how you get things doing what they're doing. That's how you find out what's happening in the body. And it is with testing that we learn things. For example, in the coronavirus, we started off thinking that the coronavirus was a respiratory flu. We have now learned that the coronavirus is a blood disease, which is a completely different thing. And we did that through testing. But with reflexology, we do not test. It's a whole different thing. So I'm going to now begin a study, begin a talk, which I hope you find interesting, about the spirituality of your body. I'm going to use, I don't have any charts, I don't have anything necessarily to rely on. I'm going to use descriptions. I'm going to use my own hands. I'm going to use my own feet. In times past, I would have brought somebody with me, and that person would have been on a table, and somebody else would have been working their feet on the side, and we would have had visuals of that. But now, with the coronavirus, people are not so interested in getting out of the house so quickly, so we just have just one old lady here. And I'm here, and I'm going to start talking about your body, and I hope that you can gain some insight into how your body works and what it does and what the spirituality of your body actually is. Because the body is this wonderful, wonderful spiritual being. So we're going to start at the top with the brain. And if you're going to work the brain, you begin by working the very tips of your toes, or you can work the very tips of your fingers. And you're going to work them for maybe 5 minutes each, or you can work them for 10 minutes each or 15 minutes each. And if you go to a reflexologist, the reflexologist is going to work the tips of your toes for your brain. Those are your brain reflexes. Your brain, you actually have a brain that works in two parts. You have your brain, which is your cerebral brain, and then you have an intestinal brain. And your intestinal brain is located in your abdomen. And you have heard, probably, because it's a very common old wives' tale, you hear people saying that illness begins and ends in the intestinal tract. And that's where your intestinal brain is. Your intestinal brain sends signals to your cerebral brain and sends more information to your cerebral brain than your cerebral brain sends back to your intestines. So we have this brain, the cerebral brain, working, and you're giving attention to it when you work the tips of your toes or the tips of your fingers. Then we're going to go down from the toes to the fatty part of the toes. And you're going to feel, you can do this with your own toes now, or you can do this with your fingers. You can feel the fatty parts of your fingers and the fatty parts of your toes. This is where your sinuses are. And if you have allergies, if you have sinus problems, it is often very helpful to work the fatty parts of your fingers. But if you're going to try to rely on the fatty parts of your fingers to counteract sinus infections, then you've got to give it some real attention, because you have to keep after it all the time. And also you have to realize that sometimes we have parts in our sinus cavities that have not necessarily been formed correctly, so that we don't necessarily breathe correctly in our noses. And so that can make things a little bit more difficult as well. I know that a lot of people go and they get nasal surgery because they're cleaning out this nasal cavities, they're cleaning out the sinuses. They're actually, in some cases, chipping away little bones that have been malformed in the nasal cavity so that you can breathe better and so that you can keep your nose cleaner and so you can work better. So when you work your sinuses, as we often do with feet, a lot of people go to a foot reflexologist regularly to have their sinuses worked. And I can attest to the fact that you can truly improve your sinuses if you go and get them worked on weekly. Do keep in mind, though, that if there is some kind of a malformation in your sinuses, it's going to be harder for the reflexologist to do what they need to do. So you may want to go to an otolaryngologist and see if there's any malfunction that needs to be corrected. Also, when you go to an otolaryngologist, a lot of them are allergists. And a lot of your sinus problems are created by allergies. And in my case, they have been. And I have been violently allergic. I remember I went to an otolaryngologist when I first moved up here. And I'd been going for years. I've gone through a series of allergy shots 4 times in my life. And I went to this physician, and he said to me, he said, "Oh, Ms. Greco," he said, "you are violently to moderately allergic to every living thing on the planet." Well, thank you, doctor. So I am now taking allergy shots, and they do make a difference. It does make a difference. I go once a week, and I get a shot, and I am allergic to so darn much that I get a shot on each arm, and they go down here. Not up here, but down here. And the needles are so teeny that you don't even feel it. Okay, so now we've gone through the toes, and we're doing the nasal part. And if you have, for example, if, for instance, you feel that you have got some problems with your face and your mouth and your teeth, work this part of your thumb. And in the foot, you're going to work the top of your big toe, because that's where that's where the mouth is. So if you're having some discomfort in this face, and a lot of people do have discomfort in their facial area. It's interesting how that works. And then, as we go along, there is a ridge where the body of your foot and your toes actually begin. There is a ridge there. And this is where the eyes and the ears are found. So you go along this ridge, and you work this ridge if you have eye problems and ear problems. And it's very, very helpful to work this ridge on your toes. And it's extremely important. Your sense organs are extremely important to your health. And a lot of people don't think about it. You know, you go along and you have colds, and you have sinus problems, and you have tonsil problems, you have all these problems, and after a while you're just not breathing. And you're not breathing right, and you're not smelling things properly. And the sense of smell is extremely important to your quality of life, and you don't even realize it. One of the first things that we do when we begin to remember things is we remember how they smell. It's very, very interesting. So this is the ears and the eyes. And in addition, your ears, you remember things that you have heard. You remember a particular honk of an automobile. You remember a particular screech of some kind, and it brings back these memories. It activates things in your cerebral brain. And this is a spiritual event. When you suddenly see something or touch something or hear something, and you are reminded of something else, that is a spiritual event. And that happens all the time as we go through life, and a good bit of the time we blow it off, we don't think about it, we don't pay that much attention to it, and in so doing, we miss a lot of the spirituality of our lives. So here's where we have our vision, and here where we have our ears. then, and if you're having trouble hearing and if you're having trouble seeing, you definitely need to go to a doctor. You definitely need to, because if you have, there are some diseases that you can deal with and deal with successfully, but if you let it go along, then all of a sudden you don't see anymore. And it's a whole other situation if you catch it earlier. But it's also important to reflex your eyes and your ears and your skin, your sense of touch. You know, when you touch a blanket or you touch a specific type of wool or a specific type of cotton, that's going to bring back memories to you. And that's your sense of touch, and that's on your skin all the time. So these are, and hearing. You hear things, you smell things, you see things, you touch things. These are all spiritual, and they are all reflected in your feet, and they are all reflected in your hands. And when you bring emphasis to those situations through reflexology, you bring healing and you bring spirituality to your situation. And then once you go down from the eyes and the ears, the next thing you do is you go down to your respiratory system. And actually, the feet follow the lines of the body, as do the hands, and does the body itself. So we have here this ridge where you have your eyes and your ears, and then we go down to the respiratory system. And the respiratory system goes down to your solar plexus. That's okay, because I'm going to sit back down in a minute. This is your respiratory system from here to here. And your esophagus is in the middle. As you sit down with your feet, you have a curve in your feet. And that is where your esophagus is. And then your lungs are on either side. Now, this is where we house grief. When people have lung problems, and they have them for short periods of time, medium periods of time, long periods of time, that is a grief situation. They are dealing with their grief. And it is okay. In our culture, we have a problem dealing with grief. We don't like to deal with it because we're positive. We like to deal with things that are more positive than that. But grief is a part of life. So we have our lungs, and they go down. When you have your feet, you can see the esophagus line, and then you've got the lungs on either side. And so that's what you work. That's what you work. It helps you breathe. And you know, a lot of us, most of us, do not breathe properly. We breathe very shallowly. And here with coronavirus, a lot of times coronavirus has a way of kind of sneaking up on you. Your breathing capacity is reduced so slowly and so quietly that you don't really realize that you're not breathing. If you have had the coronavirus for several days, you're not getting that much oxygen into your body to clean your body and to heal your body. And if a person who had healthy breathing suddenly, instead of doing it gradually, just suddenly, all of a sudden, they went down and they lost 95% of their breathing, they would be gasping for air. By the time a person with coronavirus feels this lack of air, they have quietly and calmly been losing their ability to breathe for several days. And then suddenly they have trouble breathing. But somebody else would have been instant, but with coronavirus, it's a slow thing. So it's not a coronavirus thing, But we do have a situation in our lives where we do not breathe deeply. We don't know how to breathe deeply. Breathing deeply is not something that we do thinking about it. So one place you can go to breathe better is a yoga class. And I recommend yoga to everyone, especially in this area. There are a lot of yoga teachers. I go to Carolyn, and she does Iyengar yoga, and it's wonderful. And of course now we go with Zoom because we're not seeing each other. So we're on the floor and the computer's in front of us, and she looks at us on the computer screen. But it's very important when you're stressed, and who isn't these days, that you take deep breaths and that you give your lungs a chance to fill, and that you give your body a chance to expand, and try to breathe from your lower abdomen, which is also your second brain. That's your abdominal brain. So what you're going to do when you breathe properly, and for not all day long every day, but you are going to breathe for a time each day, you're going to breathe from this abdomen, and so that you can expand your lungs. And you're going to use your lungs. And also, as you are working with your hands and with your feet, you are going to realize that your heart is on your left foot, it's on your left hand. Your heart is not on your right foot, and it's not on your right hand. So when you work your heart on your left foot, and when you work your circulatory system, you work it from your left hand and from your left foot. And it's an interesting thing because of the fact that our lungs and our heart are on the metatarsal areas of our feet. And when I observe people who are having trouble walking, there's many, many, many reasons to have trouble walking. But I'm going to discuss two of them right now because that's the part of the foot that we're working on right now and the part of the body. One reason that you can have trouble walking is that you have hammer toes. Now, hammer toes are so easy to work if you are a foot reflexologist. Your toes are bent under. And hammer toes come about when you are in a situation in which you are stifled and you cannot accept your situation, you cannot describe your situation, you're just stuck. And so you come down with these hammer toes. So I say to my clients that come to me with hammer toes that I will work their hammer toes. And I love to work hammer toes because when you work hammer toes, you straighten up the toes. And you know, it's a really interesting feeling. Sometimes a client will come to me and they've just come for whatever reason, and all of a sudden here on this first session, the first thing I do is notice their hammer toes and I start straightening out their toes. Sometimes those toes will straighten up immediately. And they'll straighten up not because I'm the magician. They are straightening up because the client is ready to deal with this terrible situation that he or she is in. Sometimes with hammer toes, the hammer toes do not straighten up for a long time. It takes a lot more time. And when that happens, it's because the person is not prepared to change his or her way of thinking. So then you have the hammer toes. You also have on this metatarsal area, where the lungs are, on the bottom of the foot, where the ball of the foot is, where you see the metatarsal area, that is a situation which does deal with the heart. It gets right to the heart of things. It does deal with love, and it deals with grief. And many times I will have people come to me and they will say, my feet hurt me so bad. I need relief so bad. And I'll start working their feet, and you can see that they are really, really suffering. And sometimes you deal with it right away. You take care of it right away. Because one of the finest things that reflexologists do is ease sore, painful, tired, itching feet. I mean, it's just the most wonderful thing. Many years ago, it was a bunch of years ago, I was in the Village, in the block where Little Italy is. I was about a block away from there, in one of these places where they have the Oriental massage places, and you can get your back rubbed or your feet rubbed. We were all in there, and they line you up on these massage tables, and there's no privacy. You're 6 inches away from the next table, blah, blah, blah. And this guy is at your feet, working your feet. And it is the most glorious experience. And I was just laying there, just having the best time. And all of a sudden, this guy came in. And he walked into the room, and this massage therapist pointed to that table. And he didn't go get on the table. He looked at that man and he said, my feet hurt so bad. I work in the store across the street and my feet are killing me. And I said, okay, just go get on that table. Just get on that table. Hush, you'll be fine. He got on that table, and it took a lot for him to do that. He was having he was having trouble. His feet were killing him, literally. Every step was pain. And he finally said, okay, within himself, okay, got on the table. And this man took off his shoes, took off his socks, and began to work his feet. And you could hear that man relax. The whole room heard it. All of us were there, this whole crowd of people getting our feet done. We could hear it. And I have had my feet hurt me so bad. And you know, in a few minutes, he was fine. He just needed some attention to those feet. But I will say this. I did have one woman come to me, and not up here. I would never tell this story because it's real, but I would not tell this story if she were here in this part of the country. She came to me, and her feet were really hurting her. And I worked on her feet several times, and we didn't get anywhere. And finally, she came to me, and I said, look, this is not a physical problem. You have got something in your life that is standing in the way of your success. And if it were not that, you would not have that pain. There is something that is stopping you from moving forward. Well, come to find out, she had a fancy job, and the job paid a lot of money, and she had a big title, and she was a very important woman. And her significant other was nothing. He had no job, he had nothing. And not only was he not functioning, and she was doing all of the functioning, he was trying to drag her down. He was trying, since he was not successful, he didn't want her to be successful either. And when people get in that situation, they don't stop to think, if I tear her apart, I'm not going to have this fancy house either. I mean, they just don't, they don't get it. So I said, look, if you want your feet to stop hurting, you're going to have to deal with this situation. I said, this is not a physical situation. And so she did. She took care of it, and she was very happy after that. But she had reached a point where she needed to make a decision, and she could not make that decision because she was in such pain. She had allowed herself to get to the point where she couldn't go any further. So that is one, that's how one part of your foot helps you deal with this situation. Now, we're going to deal with two other body parts. We're going to deal with the liver. The liver is right here. It's right under your ribs, right on this right side. And then you go to this left side, and there's another organ over there, and that's called the spleen. Now, the liver is right here on your right hand. It's right there on your right foot. So it's there. Now, you go to your left foot and your left hand, and you go to the same place on the left side, and you have your spleen. Both of these organs are emotional organs. They are emotional organs because they get angry. And it is true. Your liver is a cleansing organ. And if you start reading anatomy and physiology books, by the time you read the chapter on the liver, you're gonna say, my goodness, the liver does all this? Excuse me, it does. It does a lot. I'm not sure that it does everything that these books say it does, but you will also discover if you start reading anatomy and physiology books, you're going to start reading that this book says this and this one says that, and on and on. Everybody's got their own ideas. But the liver cleanses, and the liver also gets very angry. And so it holds a lot. And your spleen does the same thing. Your spleen gets a lot of anger, and plus your spleen manufactures blood. Your spleen is very, very important. Although you can live without your spleen. There are instances where people have to have their spleens removed, and they live quite well. But it's an interesting thing. The spleen is a fascinating a body part, and so is your liver. And of course, right next to your liver is your gallbladder. And the gallbladder is it's a fascinating body part, and it's right tucked under your liver. And you can have your liver removed, and then your body will act as if you still have, you can have your gallbladder removed. I'm sorry, you're not going to have your liver removed. You can have your gallbladder removed, and months later, your gallbladder is going to still be acting like it's there. It's a really, really interesting thing. So this is a very, very interesting thing. As you go down the foot and you go down the hand, you're going to find out so many, many interesting things about your foot. And of course, underneath the liver and on the left side, you've got your liver on the right side, your spleen on the left side, but also on the left side, right at your waist, you've got your stomach. And of course, the stomach is where the digestion really, that's where the food goes. And so that's a very, very interesting part of your body, because then things go from the stomach past the duodenum and on down into your intestinal tract, to your large and small intestines. And that's a fascinating part of the body, because that's where your abdominal brain is. And anytime anything happens to you emotionally, spiritually, physically, whatever, your abdominal brain sends a message straight up to your cranial brain. Your abdominal brain does not let your cranial brain skip a beat, because your abdominal brain tells all. And of course, the fascinating thing about the abdominal brain is that there is so much going on in your large and small intestines now that we are just now beginning to understand what's going on. Up to now, people would say, well, this is where the digestion is, this is where, things happen, blah, blah, blah. And that's not the case at all. We are now knowing about microbiome. And there are so many things now right on the cusp of happening now, because our scientists are just now beginning to accept the fact that we do have an abdominal brain, that we do have microbiome, and that things like probiotics and prebiotics are working. And of course, we still don't know. We don't know. We are at the same, and I said this 5 years ago, and I'm still saying it. I'm surprised. I'm surprised we haven't reached any further. But we've not reached much beyond that point now than we were when we discovered vitamins. We didn't know exactly what the vitamins did, and we didn't know how many vitamins there were, and we didn't even know if people needed them, and if you take too many vitamins, you're going to be wasting your money and blah, blah, blah. I can tell you we need these probiotics, but you need to know what you're doing. And you need to go to somebody who can tell you, because if you don't, you're going to buy something and you're going to waste your money. And I find this happening all the time. People go to the grocery store and they buy the yogurt that has probiotic written on it. Well, do you need that probiotic? Is that the one you need? Is it even still alive when you get it home? So you need to work with that. And of course, as the months go by, I'm going to talk to you more and more about that. And then, of course, on the feet, on the left foot and on the right foot, you have actually got the large and small intestines on the left and right foot both. And when you get down to the nitty-gritty of things with foot reflexology, a foot reflexologist is going to go to certain parts of the large intestine and the small intestine, because she is going to work that intestine through your foot or through your hand. No question about it. The intestine, that's how we get well, and the intestine tract is how we get sick. So, if you put junk in your body continually, and you don't get enough rest, and you don't get enough exercise, it's going to show itself in the intestinal tract. And then, of course, when you come down to the heel, and it's here also in the hand right here. When you go right here, this is an energetic point, which is on both feet. And this is an extremely important point, because when anybody who has had lower back pain will tell you how painful the back is. And this point right here, and it's the same place on the heel as it is on the hand, this is where you're going to deal with your back pain. And another thing that we talk about on the foot, and we talk about it on the body too. I don't know, there are a lot of people out there that get exercise. What do you exercise? Well, I exercise my thighs, and I exercise my shoulders, and I exercise my pecs, and I exercise my glutes, and I exercise. Does anybody ever say, I exercise my lymphatic system? You never hear that. And that is extremely important. Your lymphatic system is on the outside of your foot and on the outside of your hand. And so what you do is you pinch it along here. And you're going to pinch it along here. And there are two really good ways to keep your lymphatic system cleaned. The first way is like I just showed you. You do exercising your hands and your feet. You can also do when you jump up and down on a trampoline. I bought a trampoline, and I bought it, it has a hand bar on it, so I stand and I hold it so I won't fall off. And I jump up and down. And it is amazing. I don't even work hard at all, and I can feel what that trampoline is doing for me. You know, we live in a polluted planet. thank goodness our planet has decided to go on a break and to go on a cleanse. But we really have been in a very dirty situation. And you've got to clean your body out, because that's what you're breathing. So the lymphatic system is very, very important. And the other thing that you need to do is you need to work your spine. So the spine is all along here. And I will tell you this, if you have a back pain, if you have a particular vertebrae that's out, say for example, I'm going to use one that's really popular, 7C, your seventh cervical vertebrae up here. You can find that vertebrae on your hand. If that vertebrae is bothering you, you are going to know exactly when that vertebrae is out. You're going to find it on your hand. I think we are running out of time now. It is 8 o'clock now. And I've talked.
You have 9 minutes.
Oh, I have 9 minutes. Thank you so much. I still have a little bit of time left. So I'm going to go back to the back pain now. So if you have back pain, a foot reflexologist is a very important stop for you. I have found through life that back pain is first of all intense. Nobody has a small back pain. Back pain hurts. But I have also learned that back pain is a spiritual thing. We have back pain because we have spiritual problems that we are trying to deal with. And for some reason, it's reached the point now where there is pain. So when somebody comes to me and their back hurts, I listen to them. And I try to find, first of all, what do you think is the best way for you to deal with this problem? You know, if somebody comes to me and says, I really think I need to go see a back surgeon, I say, fine, go. I really do. People know within themselves what they need to do. And they know what's going to work. And if somebody thinks, I need to have a back pain taken care of surgically, nothing else is going to stop it. You can go through all the exercises, you can go through all the testing, you can go through all the therapy in the world, and if you are convinced that it is going to take a surgeon's skill to fix this back pain, then that's what you need to do, because you need to deal with what you believe is the best way. Statistically speaking, surgery is not the best way out. More people have better success with things besides surgery. But nevertheless, if this is what you think you need to do, then this is what you should definitely do. I also feel that, and I'm going to go, now we've gone down pretty well down just through the top layer of the foot. I'm going to talk a little bit about our chakras now. Your chakras are on the foot. So I feel that in the future we are going to give more credence to the chakra system in the body. I know in my current book I have a section for the chakras, and in the third edition, which I'm working on now, I'm going to have much more attention given to the chakras, and I will definitely do that in the future. But for now, we just have a few minutes left. I do want to, again, remind everyone that this is Thurman Greco, and I'm coming to you from Woodstock, New York, and the name of the program is That's Live. And I do, because of the coronavirus, have a special now. It's $25. 2 copies of my book. You can either get 2 copies of the Healers Handbook, or you can get a copy of I Don't Hang Out in Churches Anymore, and the Healers Handbook at the same time. And hold the books up. Okay. This is one. This is volume 1 of the Unworthy Hunger series. This The volume 2 is still at the publisher, and I got a message from them today that I think it's going to be out in a couple of weeks, and it is a beautiful, beautiful book. I really, really feel very good about this book. I feel very good about both books. My time in the food pantry was a very positive time for me. Feeding the hungry was very important for me. I think and we have now facing us a situation with hunger in our country now. And so I will be this summer, if at all possible, I will be continuing to raise funds for the hungry throughout the summer, because that's something that I like to do. And also raising money. I am working on third edition of the Healers Handbook, but that's a long way off. It's a much bigger book than this one, and it's just a long way off. It's a long time coming. I want to thank everyone. I think we're all going through a very, very special time on our planet, and I feel that it is an honor for us to be participating in this project with our planet, because our planet is finally saying, Mother Earth is finally saying, I'm going to clean up. And I think it's important. I think it's important for the planet to take a cleanse. I think it's important for us occasionally to have cleanses as well. It's good for our health. So rather than being afraid, follow the rules and honor the Mother Earth. Honor our health, honor the health of the planet, and be proud that you are part of this pandemic. They are now offering testing for coronavirus in our area, and I'm encouraging everyone to go get tested. It's extremely important. It costs absolutely no money, and I was hearing on a program today that only 2% of the people in this country have been tested for coronavirus. How are we going to pass down the wisdom of this event to future people if we don't even know how many people had this thing? So we need to all get tested. And I thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you next week. If you'd like to purchase a copy of the book or 2 copies of the book, contact thurmangreco.com. You can contact me on the blog, reflexologyforthespirit.com. And thank you very, very much.